This afternoon, we are going to talk about the Ovazemba people and our visit to them, and then the data that we collected there. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And first, I want to ask you, who are the Ovazemba people?
Yes, and I think this is very interesting. Let me tell you a little bit about the background because what we did in 2018, we traveled to Opuo, the northwestern corner of Namibia, and we were interested actually in investigating the Ovahimba people. And when we were walking around and we looked at the Ovahimba people, because Opuo is where the Ovahimba people are found. The Ovahimba people, as you well known, as you know very well, are very well known, and they're in fact they're one of the most popular ethnic groups of Namibia, and they've been National Geographic. They've been covered by National Geographic, by BBC, and so many different groups. So as we were walking around and trying to find out whether we should be looking at the over over Himba people, we came across another group which looked more or less like the Ovahimba people, but were different in the way they dressed, in the kind of clothes that they wore, in the kind of jewelry that they wore. The Ovahimba people are very well known for the fact that they wear red paste that is kind of rubbed all over their body, and this they look red in color, but the over Demba people on the other hand were very dark, and the hairstyles were different and the jewelry was very different, and some of them wore very delicate, very beautiful kind of jewelry made out of beads. So we started asking around, and of course we had a meeting with the regional council out there, and when we went and met all the elders, we invited them for the launch of the P3ICL project in that particular region. One of the gentlemen stood up and he talked about the Over Demba people. And he said that the Ovademba people are concentrated in the Ruacana region, which was around 150 kilometers away from 150, 160 kilometers away from Opuo. And we decided that it would be a good idea to go to Ruacana and meet these people and talk to them and see what they're all about. And because we had not heard of the Ovademba people, we traveled to Ruacana the next day, and we met this gentleman took us to the elders, and the elders, in fact, he had organized a big group for us to meet. There were at least 50 to 60 people, and we sat under a tree and we spoke to the traditional chief, and they talked to us about their culture, and they spoke to us about their language, and they said that they were some people feel that they are they that the Olu Demba language. The Olu Demba language is a dialect of Oshihirero. But other people feel that it's not a dialect at all, but it is different. Now, the thing is, we are not indigenous language experts. So for us, it would be very difficult to determine whether it's a dialect or a language. But what is important for us was to find out whether it is something that we could research, whether the people would be willing to talk to us and the community would welcome us. So I think we laid the foundation there. We laid the ground, and we went back to NUST, and we had a technical advisory committee meeting in which we presented our findings. And of course, the technical advisory committee meeting advised us to investigate the Olu Demba language and the Ova Demba people. Now, you see, the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the Oberhimba people are the bigger group. And if you do a Google search, and if you go to the Google Scholar and you look at articles, they have been over researched. There are more than 800 to 1,000 articles on them. Whereas if you put in Olu Demba, there are not even 10 articles. So we decided that it would be a better idea to investigate a group that has not been investigated, and we spoke to them. So what happened after that? Of course, we decided. Once we had decided that, we made a plan and we went back to Ruacana the next year. I think it was in January that we went to Ruacana, and that is where our our research started, data collection started.
So you definitely feel that the language and the culture that it's different to that of the Ovahimba then.
I think one of my colleagues, Professor Haile Wuldemariam, tried to do a kind of a contrastive linguistic analysis, and he collected some words from, kinship words from the Oshihirero and, the Oludemba language, and he put them together. And his sense is that maybe the Oludemba language is not an independent language by itself, but it is a dialect. But as I said, for us, for me particularly, I think the language question is whether it is a dialect or a language is not a part of this project. The part of this project is revitalization of indigenous languages. And we have identified this particular language because we feel it's marginalized. There are not too many people. You don't have books. And in fact, they when we went to Opuo and we spoke to the regional council, he said, "Oh, these Oludemba people, they've got their Bible, but it's not correctly written." So there is a lot of discussion, even within the region, of whether it is a language, in independent language or not. But this project is not about determining whether this particular language is an independent language or not. It is about revitalization of the language. And we fear that if this language is left to itself over a period of time, it will die away because there are not too many people and it is not recognized. It's not taught in schools, for instance. So that's how we got into the Oludemba language. Yes.
So, with every group, we looked at a particular ritual, like the wedding rituals and so on. What was the ritual in this case that you were able to identify, and can you describe the ritual?
Yes, this was, in fact, this is again one of the exciting parts of this project. What we did is when we got the group together, we made them, we divided the people who were there. There were nearly 50 to 60 people, and we divided them into four groups. And then we posed this question to them, and we said, "Why don't you tell us about which ritual you think would be the most representative of what you do, of your culture, and which you would like to preserve, secondly, and which you would like to show everyone." And of course there were a lot of discussions, and there's then they came up finally with this ritual, and it's called the Itanda Onyondo ceremony. What is the Itanda Onyondo ceremony? Itanda is a circumcision. Every male member of the Ovademba people has to undergo the Itanda ceremony. And once the Itanda ceremony is over, that means the male circumcision is over. It doesn't stop there. It goes into a nice, beautiful celebration because this is a rite of passage. This is to signal that these boys are now becoming men. And so to celebrate, there is these boys are now given drinks, and they don fresh clothes, and there is a cleansing ceremony, and so all kinds of things happen, and it's a beautiful experience. So finally they decided that the Tanda and Onyondo ceremony was the one that they would like to showcase to the world.
Okay, so how do you ensure that this ritual is preserved for future generations?
I think one of the things that the project has done is, thanks again to the European Union, we've been able to do this. What we did is, once we had selected this particular Etanda Onyondo ceremony, we wrote down all the different steps. What exactly was the ritual? What did it consist of? And we brought it back to Windhoek, and we got in touch with the Oshihirero speakers and Oludemba speakers, and we gave it to a very famous, a very well known drama practitioner, David Anchera Javera, and he helped us to dramatize this. So he made use of Oludemba speakers, and he dramatized this whole ritual and made it into a very, not a modern kind of a play, but it was adapted for the stage. So he dramatized it so that it could be enacted on stage. And once they had practiced it, they performed, these people, there were about 5 or 6 of them, they performed it on the stage during our cultural festival. I should tell you that Namibia University of Science and Technology has a cultural festival every year in the month of August, and there are all kinds of performances that take place. And this was one of the performances which was thrown open to all the students and lecturers, and all the people were welcome. And I think that evening, it was quite a cold evening, I remember, but then there were nearly 300, 400 people who attended this particular Etanda Onyondo ceremony. And what was very, for me, me, what was very exciting was the fact that the whole play was done in the Oludemba language. It is not done in English, but there was a narrator who was explaining it in English, but the play itself was done in Oludemba language. And of course, we had a person who filmed. Molopong again is a very, very well known poet and drama practitioner. So he filmed the whole thing, and now we had a video, we had a film which was in the Ovazemba language. Yes.
Okay, that's great. And I remember as we were watching the play live, that the students were making comments, and cheering and jeering. So they really enjoyed that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's the power of modern drama. That's the power of drama. I mean, if you watch something on television, you can't interact. You watch something in a movie theater, you can't interact with it. But if it happens live, then you hear all the comments. It was very exciting, even for the students, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the response of the Ovazemba people when you screened the play for them for the first time?
Yeah. So what we did was we decided that we would go back to Ruacana because we wanted to do some more data collection, and then we thought that we would screen this play, and it was again one of the highlights of our trip to Ruacana, because what they did was, when people came to know that we were back in Ruacana, we were welcomed with open arms, and they set up a marquee for us. And can you imagine, we were in the deepest, one of the deepest parts of the Ruacana region. When we go to these regions, we are going into the villages, sometimes into villages where there are no roads, and you have to use a 4x4, otherwise you will not be able to drive through. There are no lights, nothing, no electricity. And so we went into this place, and there was a fairly modern house that had been built in one of the villages, and they had set up a marquee. And I remember slowly, little by little, people streaming in, trickling in, and they were, at the end of it all, there were nearly about 95 to 100 people who had come. And then we had to make a plan to show this movie to the people. And of course, because there was too much light, we had to show it inside the house. And again, we had to make do with curtains and mattresses. I think all that was a part of the experience. But we did it over. We had about 2 or 3 shows, because we would get a few people in, they would sit and watch the play, and then they would go out, another group would come in and watch the play and then go out. And so this happened 3 4 times. And then finally what we did is we went out, and then we everybody sat under the marquee, and we asked them about the play. And it is most exciting for me to see the women were making a lot of comments, and this is a male circumcision ceremony, but the women were saying, no, but they did not follow the ritual correctly, and the language that they were using is very modern, and it's not what we use traditionally. And
Okay.
what is the Itanda ceremony, the circumcision is done very slowly. And so there were a lot of critical comments that were being made, which meant that they were very invested in what was being shown, and they had their opinion, and they were engaged with it. The fact of technology did not throw them off. They were actually engaging with that. And I was completely overawed by the whole experience, because I didn't expect that kind of reaction. I didn't think that they would engage with. So I told them, this is the first over them language movie, and so that was, I think, the highlight of that trip for
So
me.
that is actually what we want, exactly what we want, that people will interact and that they will, comment on these things and also just enjoying what was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, more than anything else, we need to instill in them a sense of pride about their culture, about their language, about their traditions. And that you could see, the people were so excited. They were so proud that, this Itando Onyondo ceremony, which is their ceremony, is now being shown as a movie. And so, yeah, I think at the end of this project, we will digitize this, and it will be available in the form of discs for people to buy. They can watch it.
Okay, so it will be on a DVD.
On a DVD, yes. It will be
Great.
available on a DVD.
Yeah.
People can buy and watch,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
And if it is available online, then we will definitely put the link here on
Yes.
Facebook as well.
Yes, of course we should do that.
No,
Yes.
that's great. Sarla, thank you so much. And then I think next week, what are we going to talk about next? Do you think we will that we will talk about our sun groups or
Yes,
which
I
group?
think we should move to the second group, which is the
Okay,
sun group.
great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ishan.
Okay.